beside people who were in the throes of death, including my own father and mother, and experienced joy in God's promise kept, even though I was in great pain. I've rocked a very colicky baby through long nights and experienced joy of knowing God's presence even as the tears ran down my face. I've sat in despair as frustrations and disappointments have piled up in my life and experienced the joy of knowing that I am never alone. That's the thing about Christian joy. It doesn't leave us when life is painful, because joy is not an emotion that comes and goes. It is a presence rooted in gratitude that is always with us. Our biblical examples of living a joyous life are many. In the ancient stories of God's people, the joy of Israel is found in the promise that the Hebrews were the people of God and that God was their God. Being the children of God sustained Israel generation after generation. And the language they used in describing this relationship is insightful. Gladness, mirth, to be bright, to shine, to spring or leap, and exult are the most common words derived from joy. The Jews considered secular happiness as surprising, but unanticipated benefit that sometimes came to them but was never expected. Their joy was not dependent on things going well or good fortune. Their joy was not limited to a season. Their joy was not reliant on having stuff or even about being safe in the world. Joy wasn't about how they felt. It was about how they lived. When Jesus taught this lesson about the vine and the branches, it was both brutal and beautiful, because he reminded us that he is the vine and we are the branches, and the branches can only bear fruit if they're connected to the vine. He said that we are already clean by the word he spoke to us, and said apart from him, we can really do nothing. And he concluded by saying that these things he spoke to us so that his joy may be in us, and that our joy may be full. Jesus lived a life of gratitude, and that was why he had joy. He wanted us to live in that kind of joy that would make us full. Full. Complete. Jesus was not always happy, not by a long shot. He experienced disappointment and loss, sorrow, frustration, discomfort, and great pain. But he was always joyful, knowing that feelings and emotions come and go if we let them. He was always joyful because he believed in the bigger and the broader picture of life, that God's kingdom was coming to fruition. He was always joyful because he held on to the promise and he never let go. Like love and hope, joy is not fleeting for us. It doesn't depend on what occupies our daily life. It does not depend on others. It is not even reliant on our emotions or our body, because Christian joy is spiritual. It is both the inpouring and the outpouring of faith. As we busy ourselves in the next weeks and the many weeks after that, I pray that we can always remember to live in that joy, because our God is a marvelous God. Our God chose to be human, just like the rest of us. Our God went through childhood and puberty and adulthood, and with all the mystery and challenges of human life. Our God chose to save every person on earth. Our God chose forgiveness and gratitude so that we could too. Our God chose to die so that the gates of heaven would be open to all. And our God chose to rise from the dead so that we would know the promise was true, and so that we would live in that promise. Even as we choose joy, we know that joy has chosen us. In the second verse of our closing song, the author asks the shepherds why they're expressing such jubilee and why their joy is so prolonged. And the answer is Jesus. Glory in the highest to the divine. That is the center of our joy too. As people of faith, we wish for a Merry Christmas, but we know the joy of the Lord